Trump, you got to know his children and his family. Hence the new book by our next guest. The book is called Born Trump, Inside America's First Family. Emily Jane Fox, thanks for joining us here on the Big 550 KTRS in St. Louis.
Thanks so much for having me.
So first thing I want to know about his daughter, Ivanka, right? What's the connection? He said some pretty weird and strange things that a father really doesn't say about his daughter. Like he'd like to date his daughter if he wasn't his daughter and vice versa. So what's the relationship between him and his daughter?
It's a very complicated, twisty, unusual relationship. And for years, we have heard some of the more inappropriate things that I don't think I've ever heard another father say about his daughter. And in reporting my book, I found out one story that every time I think about it, it still makes me cringe. When she was 15 years old, Ivanka was interested in getting into modeling, and actually her father was very interested in her getting into modeling. He was very interested in her becoming famous because he thought if he had a famous daughter, it would make him more famous. So he got into his head that one thing that could potentially kickstart her modeling career even more would be if she got breast implants. Now, she was 15 years old. So when he started telling people this, they were like, whoa. This can't happen. So a member of his family who he called a very close associate of his at the time and was like, you got to put a stop to this. So he called Donald Trump and said, well, is this true? Is this really something that you want to happen? And he said, essentially, maybe not, but isn't she attractive anyway? That was the sentiment he wanted to put out.
Emily Jane Fox, our guest. The book is Born Trump. How did you research the book? Friends and family? How'd you do this?
So I have been covering Ivanka and her siblings in the First Family for about 3 years now for Vanity Fair, where I write. And when I started researching the book, I reached out to anyone who had ever really had any kind of contact with them, whether it was people who, the closest people within the family, within the campaign, within the transition, White House, Trump Organization, all the way down to people who played tennis with Ivanka at boarding school when she was in 10th grade. So I ended up interviewing about 150 people who were involved with the family, close to the family, around the family. And the thing that I told every single person I interviewed in the book, this is how I started every interview. I said, look, there's no agenda here. There's no bias. All I want to do is get the most accurate, complete, full picture of who these people are, because these are now some of the most powerful people in the entire world. And yes, we have seen them covered since they were babies. We've written and read a million things about this family, but I feel like there's a caricature of who these people are, and I want to understand who they are when you pop the hood and really look at who they are deep down.
Is Ivanka and Chelsea Clinton still friends?
No. No, and they weren't. I think a lot of the coverage of them being friends was a little overblown to begin with. They were friends in the way that a lot of people in New York are friends, meaning they could sometimes turn up at the same dinner party or event, but I don't think that they're crossing paths in any way right now.
Yeah. What about Tiffany? Tiffany seems like the odd person out.
Poor Tiffany, right? She really, the reality is she didn't grow up with President Trump really as a present figure in her life. She grew up in California. Her mother, Marla Maples, and Donald Trump divorced when she was about 3.5 years old. And so she is definitely an outsider when it comes to the family. She gave a speech at the Republican National Convention introducing her father, and it was really devoid of any personal anecdotes. And it wasn't a failure of her speech writing. It was really just a reflection of the fact that she really doesn't have a close relationship with her father at all. She didn't have that many personal things to say about him.
How would you explain Don Jr. and the relationship with his father?
All of these relationships are complicated, so I hate to say it's a complicated
That's
one.
That's why you buy the book. Right.
Exactly. But Don Jr. was 12 years old when his parents got divorced, and it was such a public, nasty divorce. He knew that his father had left his mother because he was dating a younger, beautiful woman, and he knew that his father was sort of playing that out in the press. And so he was very angry with his father and blamed that on him. And so for years he carried that anger. And I think that we still see some of the scars from that playing out today, where he wants to be involved with his father because he was wounded by that whole thing. But he's definitely an attack dog, and a little bit of anger inside of him still. And so you still see the scars of that 12-year-old boy who was angry with his father playing out today.
Emily Jane Fox, the book is called Born Trump, and this is why we read the book. These are just small little anecdotes. But what do you say about Melania? It seems like her relationship with Donald is somewhat frayed. How much of that is in the book?
You know, the book is primarily focused on the children, but you get some insights into the family dynamic with Melania Trump, particularly around inauguration weekend. She was actually very gracious. She wanted to make sure that the children, I hate to call them children because they're all adults, right, but the first family was all involved in the weekend. But the children had very strong opinions about what they wanted. So, for instance, Melania was very hesitant to have this inauguration parade that every president has had for years and years and years because she was scared about the security concerns. There were a lot of very upset people around the time of inauguration, and she has a young son, Barron, and she was worried about them getting out of the car and walking. And Ivanka said, basically, it's happening. Like, we're doing it because we want to have these pictures for the history book. And she sort of overrided the First Lady.
The book is called Emily Jane Fox. Just a small little taste of what's in the book that's getting a lot of attention. Born Trump, Inside America's First Family. Emily Jane Fox, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks so much for having me.
You got it.